Somebody had to keep his feet to the fire. I made some notes. They told me I had as long as I want, right? There were extra innings down there. And I don't even know what I wrote. One thing I did write, I coached over 300 players at Florida Atlantic. 300 players, that's a lot of kids that think you're terrible. And out of that percentage, there's got to be a bunch of them that really didn't like me much. But you don't coach for that. You can't sit there and say, well, I hope they like me, because it's going to be a pretty sorry day for you. You just want to do your best every day and hope that it works out for them and for you. 300 kids. Now, 3 of them are no longer with us. It's hard to believe that in a program this young. We have 3 deaths already. Nick Smericanic died a long time ago, about 92, I think. Great kid, tremendous. Not a great player, but just a tremendous kid. With a smile, could light up the room. And then last year we lost Mike Elliott. Called Mike Jumbo. He hated it. He wasn't a football Giants fan like I was. Jumbo Elliott was a big lineman for them, but Mike was just a great kid. He finally, whatever, leukemia, different, cancers that he had, just a tremendous person. And, 32 years old. And then we lost another one. Aaron Deal was with us for a year and a half, 2 years. He transferred from Vanderbilt, and most of the time he was with us, he was sick. He had Crohn's disease and some other things, and just out of the blue this fall he passed away. He's got 2 little kids. So. This is only 3 out of 300, so that's the one good. So there are my thoughts tonight, as all those guys are. All right, so I didn't want to be emotional. Try to be funny instead. Funny is easier than emotional. I was lucky. I had parents that planted 2 seeds in me. One seed was my faith. I was born, raised a Roman Catholic. I had my ashes. I had to do everything, I was an altar boy, if you can picture that. I knew the Latin and all that other stuff. And, you plant seeds, and now I'm working on a farm, I realize sometimes it's, you don't see the plant, it takes a long time to grow. And sometimes it looks like the plant isn't making it. And then the other seed they planted was baseball. My parents loved baseball. My father took my mother to a triple A game. The Red Sox were in Scranton, that's where they grew up. And he would take her to the Red Sox games because he knew the ticket guy. And he would just, shake hands with him, pretend he's handing him a ticket, and that was their dating. So there was a love of baseball and our faith that went through the family. Well, the faith part of it took a back seat. When you're 20-some years old, you think you know everything. And so you turn away. I approached my faith with, okay, let's make a deal. You ever see that show, God? Let's make a deal. They always say you should pray to God like you're talking to him. So I did it. I don't know if you really should do it the way I did it, but I said, if you let me be a Major League Baseball player, I'll do something in my life that'll help children everywhere. Whatever notoriety I get, whatever money I get, I'll start foundations, I'll do this, I'll do that. I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player so bad, I could taste it. So I was like, all right. So I think God's answered my prayers. The Twins, the scout was drunk one night, I got to sign somebody for New Jersey. It's Cooney guy, all right, I got to take it. So I played 2 years where my arm was over, I was doing well, boom, it's gone. I was so bitter. The 2 things that mattered a lot to my parents, I turned away from. I turned away from God and my faith, and I said, all right, I see how it works. And I turned away from baseball. For a year, I didn't even look at a baseball game, didn't care, didn't want anything to do with it. And finally, we went over to the high school field and watched the semi-pro league team playing and talked to the guy. They really needed a guy to manage a team in this league. They're all college kids and guys that played in the minor leagues. And so I got back in it that way. Then I needed a job to make some money, so I applied for a job. My coach at Montclair State said, why are you going to that college? You can be my assistant. I said, you don't have an assistant. He goes, oh, come on, you can be my first assistant. I said, well, you don't have any money. He goes, don't worry about it, we'll figure something out. All the way back then. So I worked 2 years there as an assistant, got me my high school job, coached in high school. I was back with baseball, loved it, I was really happy. But I was young, and I thought the important thing now is you got to win games. You got to win. It's the most important thing. The first 3 years, we didn't win many games. My ex-wife said to me, did you ever think you're not as good as you really think you are? Notice I said ex-wife. No. That wasn't it. So anyway, go to Montclair, get back as a head coach, have success there, tremendous kids, it was a great experience. But again, I was kind of a young kind of coach. Then I came down here. They had an athletic director here, his name was Jack Neal. How many people remember the name Jack Neal here? All right, we got some people, we got some old timers in the crowd. All right, Jack Neal's favorite line was, we had a national search, 6 people applied, 5 turned it down, and we hired 10. Am I lying, Liz? You've heard that. All right, so things are going along pretty well. My first year I got here, they didn't tell me that we had like 4 or 5 scholarships. Like, all right, that doesn't matter. I didn't have any scholarships at Montclair. Well, the guys you're trying to beat have 10. I didn't have any clue what that really meant. They didn't tell me until I was already on campus and the season had started that the tuition waivers you used to have for baseball only are now going to the basketball program, which is just getting started. Oh. So that really would have been like, full scholarships. And so we had next to nothing, and we did the best we could. We struggled sometimes. And finally one day, this guy, Jack Neal, calls me and says, hey, you're done. See ya. We're not going to renew your contract, blah, blah, blah. And but the guy made a big mistake. He didn't say because you're terrible this year, which we were really struggling. He made it personal. And there was an incident happened that he didn't think I supported him. I supported him in a very intelligent way. He took it the wrong way. And so he wanted to get rid of me. So for 2 weeks, I'm lying in bed trying to sleep, and I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? Am I going to slink back to New Jersey and hope I get a job coaching high school again? And I went in to see the president of the university at the time, who I invited to come tonight, and he has an event up at FIT, Florida Tech, Anthony J. Catanese. He was new. I sat down with him, I had 4 pages, I said, listen, I just want an hour of your time, listen to this. These were decisions made in this athletic department, not just with me, but with a bunch of different people that were all personal. And I said, I think I'm getting the raw deal here. He says, I can't do this. These people made a decision, or my management team, you're asking me to do a hard thing. So I stood up, I looked at him, shook hands, and said, look, thanks for meeting with me. I said, I always tell my players, the hardest thing that they'll ever have to do is to do the right thing. I said, that's all I want you to do is think about what you think is the right thing. And I talked to him the other day, and he said to me, it was the right thing. They rehired me like a week later. It was great. At the dinner, it was great. We had this dinner, and the AD had to come up and say, we're bringing him back. All the players were booing. They were looking forward to their new coach. So I had a young assistant named Gonzalo Carcacci. There were no assistants. There was no budget. We had hardly anything. And this is 5th-year guy, the former coach Steve Trailer, who did a really great job with not much, as I learned later. Said this kid Gonzo, he's the right kind of kid. If you can give him a little money, help him with his last year of school, he'll do a great job. So Gonzo was great. He became a true friend, as well as a good assistant coach. And he thinks I taught him some stuff. I don't know. I had him run into the concession stand or to the laundry room, to the refrigerator to get sodas for the concession stand. We didn't have a concession stand, so I brought tables out and talked the parent into selling stuff. It was the most Mickey Mouse high school organization you ever saw. And poor Gonzo, he used to hate when I go, hey, Gonzo. He'd start cursing in Spanish. So he went on, did 7 years, did a great job with us, and now he's got his own sports camp, and he's a teacher, he's married, he's doing great. So we're struggling. Things aren't going that great. I go on a road trip with this little Irishman. Now, the way I hired this Irishman named John McCormack is he was best friends with my best returning player, Pat Murray, Mike's brother. You guys know Mike. So Pat was my best returning player, the junior, but he hung out with all the older kids, his freshman, sophomore year. Those guys graduated. So now I'm going to have my best player just moping around because he doesn't know anybody, blah, 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 blah. So I go over to their house one day to pick up my boys who were playing with Mike, and there's Mac having a couple of beers, shocking, with Pat Murray, my best player. Now, John had just graduated from Lynn University, and I said, hey Mac, what are you doing? And I knew him because he was a good competitor, really good competitor. I knew him from in town. And he's always mad at me because I never recruited him, and probably he's right. So anyhow, I said, what are you doing? He goes, I'm thinking to take some graduate classes at FAU. I said, hey, how much are you going to cost? He goes, about $250. I said, I'll pay for it. You want to be a coach? And he goes, sure. That was his job interview. He always said to me, that was the only job interview he had until you sat down with him when I left. That was his only other job interview. And it worked. He did a good job. So Matt and I are driving. We left the team on the road. We drove in vans in those days. And I don't know where we were, somewhere up in the godforsaken part of Florida. And we went up into South Georgia to see this kid that supposedly was his great pitcher. And we were doing a lot of out-of-state recruiting, because because we didn't have much to offer in-state kids. We go see the kid, and we watch 2 innings, and John looks at me and goes, "This is a waste of time." I go, "Yeah, let's go." I said, "The kid's mom's really good looking, but..." That was for you, Whit. I said, "We better get going, get back, it's a long ride." So we're driving back, and he goes, "Coach," he goes, "I'm 22 years old, and I shouldn't be telling you what to do," but he goes, "I think this isn't working." He says, "Why don't you turn me loose in Palm Beach County? I'll make up some stuff to these guys, we'll get them." And I said, "All right, let's do that." So he starts doing it that year, and then we had a change. Old Jack Neal rode off into the sunset, and they brought in a new guy. His name was Tom Scott. Tom Scott was an interesting character as an AD. He was ADD. Before we ever knew what it was. But he was a great guy. So this is my meeting with Tom Scott. He calls me in and goes, "Sit down." I sit in his office, and he's like, which became my office later. He goes, "All I've heard since I got this job is the first thing I need to do is fire Kevin Cooney." I'm like, "Oh, it's nice to meet you. Thank you." And he goes, he was at Florida. He'd been a fundraiser up there. Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, they closed at one end of the stadium with him getting the money out of Ben Hill. So anyway, he goes, "I talked to Joe Arnold, who then was the baseball coach at Florida, who we beat the first time we ever played him on the road at Florida on television. It was great. And Joe says, well, why don't you find out what the guy's working with? What's he got? Does he have what he needs to compete?" He goes, "All right, so what do you got?" I go, "Well, we got like 4.5 scholarships." He says, "Well, what does Florida Southern have?" I said, "On paper, they got 10. I said, "What they have, under the table, they might have a lot more. We'll have Publix money." And we're competing against the Sunshine State Conference. It was the best Division II conference, and that was before all these other schools went Division I. There were some unbelievable baseball players in there. Tino Martinez, not a bad player. Sam Militello, not a bad player. All these guys went to the big leagues. So anyway, he goes, "All right, you got 10 scholarships." I walk back to Mac, I go, "Let's go. You're going shopping and you got money for once." So, you got to go with it? You got a date? So anyway, John goes, goes to Palm Beach Community College, gets 3 guys. Goes to Broward Community College, gets 2 guys. And the next thing you know, and then we got a freshman. Was that next freshman year? I think we got this freshman named Nick Presto, who's in the Hall of Fame. And we win 42 games. So, we had the wherewithal finally to get some good people, and then when we got some good people in, I didn't screw them up that year, and we did really well. So then we go into Division I, and we need some additional coaches. Where am I going to find some other coaches? I was a big Yankee fan growing up, and I see this guy, and I'm like, Steve Whitaker lives around here. It's Steve, raise your hand. There he is, right there. Steve, raise your hand. Right. Steve Whitaker was a great baseball player. If you don't believe me, just ask him. And Steve came up to the big leagues with the Yankees when Mantle was in about his second to last year or something around there. Yeah. And he was like his caddy. He'd go in and place him, and Roger Maris, and Whit would have had a tremendous major league career, except for 2 things. maybe more than 2, but 2 that we can mention. One, he got to be really good friends with Mickey Mantle, and Mickey showed him the town. Yeah. So Whit's social life, kind of learned that side of baseball. And the other side, he was a little on the stubborn and opinionated side. Did not mince words. But Steve had a good career. So I get Steve, hey, I need a hitting coach. You could do a great job. Steve comes in here, just tremendous. Larger than life character, had a way of coaching kids that was really exceptional to watch. And they really looked up to him. And really, really fun to be around. So Whit decides, he's going to leave because I'm not paying him enough money eventually. I don't know. And so now I'm trying to find somebody else. So I got his polar opposite. I got a guy named Jim Lytle, another ex-Yankee. Now Jim Lytle is quiet, good person, God-fearing, in bed at night. Exact opposite. They taught the exact same thing, but in different ways. And when I observed those 2 guys, I really learned a lot about teaching. That, I used to use this phrase, there's all different ways to get to Disney World. We can take the turnpike, we can go this way, we can go that way. It doesn't matter, as long as you get to Disney World. And they did the exact same thing, but in different ways. And it was really fun to watch the 2 of them. And Lytle, he turned into Yoda for me. He would stand against the wall like this outside the dugout. I'd lean against the wall because I was afraid of getting hit by line drive. So they're hiding. And I'd be starting to give our signs, very intricate, very detailed, professional signs, right guys? And I said, Lito, should we hit and run here? And I'm already, and he goes, nah, you can hit and run. Like, Lito, give me your damn answer, will you?